Mission start!
I'm nervous in the sense like, oh my God, I'm afraid he sees it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just nervous because you guys have seen it. Like, you've seen me that way, but just to be able to have that kind of moment of honesty and truth in a form that I know is going to be out there it's intense.
Yeah, for sure. I get that. I mean, I think I'm probably like as self-conscious about that as you are.
Yeah, that's where you guys are so lucky because that's never for you too. Like, and I love that about you is that you don't give a fuck. It's whatever. Like, if I'm feeling that way, I'm going to feel that way, and this is just where we are.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wish I would have had that sooner.
Yeah.
A good bit of my life was caring about, like, should I actually be feeling this way? So, but that's because, I'm a redhead, so automatically it was, you shouldn't be angry about that. The only reason you're angry about it is because you're a redhead, so it's okay.
I was just about to say, I wonder how much of your emotional outbursts are discounted because you are a redhead, which is silly.
Oh, yeah.
They sure as shit were in childhood.
Yeah.
That's silly. Like, you have a heightened sense of emotion, but that's a good thing.
I'm convinced that most redheads' anger issues, they're like extra anger issues because they're redheads, is because of them having their, like when they would get angry about something, discounted so much, especially when they're little, as just being a redheaded outburst, that it caused them to like go overboard with it.
Yeah, probably.
That's crazy. Do you think that that's what gives us do you think that's why we explore child one's emotions as much as we do now? Because we don't want him to feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I definitely, I'll joke around with him about a redheaded temper, but that's definitely why, if he gets pissed off about something, that I'm, okay, let's find out why you're so pissed off.
Yeah.
And it's not just brushed off,
That's, and I feel weird doing it sometimes because sometimes I look at him and I'll say, lean into it. Like, I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to shake your head. You don't know. You know exactly why. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Let me in. Don't try and hide it. Don't try and masquerade it as it being nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
And then there are times where I do that, where I feel like I'm just being an ass. Because I know they don't want to. With both of the older ones, where it's like we don't want to do this. I'm like, guess what?
It's
We're
just
here
that
now.
they're still young, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't always know why right away. There's a reason why, but you can't put it into words. So when they say I don't know, it's just because they don't know right off the top.
Verbally what it is.
Yeah.
And it's been hard for them to learn how to express that too, because when you're really young children, typically any very strong emotional expression is kind of stifled automatically by everyone around you, because most of the time it's in what would be considered like a socially inappropriate context, like you're at the store or with friends or whatever, or it's just the fucking kind of authoritarian knee jerk that most adults have in response to kids being assertive at all. And so that gets crunched down pretty early on, and it stays that way. And then it's all of a sudden you're a teenager and you are close enough to something like adulthood that we're get out of your shell, man. And you're then why did you lacquer my shell so fucking thick?
Yeah. Why did you tell me I had to have
break this shit? I've been
time?
trying for fucking since I was born, and now I've got armor I didn't ask for and no tools to break it. So what the fuck am I supposed to do with that?
And then you're called emotionally unavailable.
Yeah.
And then when you're dude, I've never had a chance to be emotionally available. So when was I supposed to learn that skill?
Yep.
Nah, not in this house. Oh no.
You're gonna have all of your emotions out. Damn it.
We're gonna lean into everything. By the time you leave here, if you can't explain something, that's because you don't want to, not because you can't. And that's, I think, what's made the last couple of days so hard for me. I mean, even though you and I have been together now for forever, it feels like. And even though I've always been, the funny thing is I've always been told that I'm emotionally sensitive, but I've never felt like it, because every time I felt like I ever got to that place, I always felt like there was somebody tell me that I was emotionally sensitive. So it made me harden.
Mm-hmm.
But when you deal with what we've been dealing with over the last couple of days, there's still that piece of me that it's hard for that to come out.
Yep. And
to feel it and to experience it and not just laugh it off and pretend like it's just another day, It just, I don't know. I just, with everything going on, like today, for example, when we were driving by and you got excited by the idea of the protest, I got a chance to watch the video of the people out there today, and the passion and the intensity, and then you have people driving by who lackluster.
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to believe that there can be better when that exists? That's what I was telling her, and I'm sure you saw it when you watched the episode that we're doing. It's hard for me to believe in anything better when I see there are people who don't even support this when it's in their face and it's raw, and it's hard. So I guess that's my question for you guys for tonight. Like, how with what you guys want to come to pass, and the more and more I listen to it, the more and more I feel interested in it. How am I supposed to have faith in that when something like this occurs and that faith is almost broken?
I want to start off by saying that I knew this is where this was going to go.
Is that a good thing or bad?
Oh, it's awesome. I can't do the whole time I'm editing this. I have so much to say. No, but I kind of figured the conversation wasn't exactly over. So when I say I knew this is where this was going, I kind of figured that this would basically be like WHST episode 12, TCAG episode 3.
Yeah. That's what I kind of figured it was going to end up being too, was just kind of a continuation of TCAG.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll be able to have a much more mature conversation today. That
felt shit out first, and
it was me at my most vulnerable, like by far.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because it's hard not to believe in the idea of being hunted at this point. Like, it's you start compiling if you're a prosecutor and somebody lays out all this evidence in front of you and says, what do you think? Does it feel like this person's being hunted? You'd have hard pressed to be like, yeah. It kind of does.
Yeah.
And it's systemic at this point to have the president of the United States go on a Twitter rant and call them thugs, but call people with AKs at a courthouse good people. Come on, man. Like, you can't look at that and not think to yourself, well, I mean, logically, you can't look at that and not think to yourself, this is fucked up.
No, you certainly cannot. Mm. Well, so you were saying that in the TCAG video, and I'm kind of glad that's basically the first thing you asked here, because I wanted to respond to your question with a question. Because what you said there, and I get what you mean. Like, I fucking understand why it feels like such a rock and hard place scenario. Is like, it's hard for you to imagine trying for something better when you can't get anybody to care about you now.
Yeah.
To which I respond, like, is that not the reason to want to make something better?
Yes.
I mean, that's like the entire motivation. Okay. Is because things are so fucked now.
I think so. Now looking at it from still emotionally raw, but not as last time. Where I was going with that is, it's not so much the system that I don't want to change, because I do, because the system just needs to change now. Mm-hmm. I mean, well, it's always needed to, but now it's just beyond a shadow of a doubt. Where I was coming from was, if I'm supposed to believe that once we get out of the system, that people are going to be better, that people are going to change their mindsets and want to be able to help each other and do this as a community. When the community, it feels like partially and not strongly, just being on social the way I have today, there are some people who genuinely believe that officer did the right thing, who aren't police officers, who are just everyday people who believe that man did the right thing. How am I supposed to believe in the community as a whole when those people exist?
Well, you need to ask a couple of questions there. One is, how accurately can you really, really trust that people are actually representing themselves when they have the veil of anonymity? I mean, you would assume, and you probably assume correctly, that people with the veil of anonymity would be expressing their true, real selves, because, like, they've got no need to censor if there's no potential for repercussion personally.
But considering how many trolls there are.
Yeah.
Right.
How many people
saying people that just want to be controversial to be controversial.
Yeah.
And not just to be controversial, right? Because it's not like, I mean, sure, it's not incorrect to say that, like, these are just people trying to, like, stir the pot, get shit being shitty because it gets a reaction out of people. But these people that do that kind of stuff, I mean, I'm sure you couldn't just say that, like, every down to the last one of them that does that doesn't do it just because some people, I'm sure, do it just because. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think that there's always got to be the question of why, because, like, if you say, well, why does X, And the answer is because it just does, and that's why. Like, I don't know about you, but that's never been very satisfying to me. And
No.
it's not that it's just that it's unsatisfying, like, because it's ungratifying. It's unsatisfying because it doesn't actually explain anything, and it lacks, it's unsatisfactory because it completely lacks predictive power.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ask why a thing happens just because you want an explanation of how. I mean, certainly of how. You want that too.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know why it works the way it does, because if it working the way it does leads to harm, presumably you want to know why it works the way it does so that you can make it not do that anymore. Right?
Exactly.
And so I've got to ask, when people are trolly, probably a couple of pretty solid standard sets of psychologies that inform that, I would bet. I mean, I can't posit that, but I'm, speculatively, I'm saying that people that are that way probably have a couple of sets of things going on. One, most of them probably pretty young.
Yeah.
May not guess based on lots of things, but I'm betting a lot of them are quite young, like early to mid-teens. I bet that's a large demographic of, like a larger demographic segment of the online trolls than one would think, just because that behavior is so fucking typical in kids, and not all kids and not at all times, but when kids get that way, usually it's because they have a major sense of a lack of control over their own lives, their home environments. Like, they have lived under straight up abusive parents or whatever, that they have a dramatic need to find a way to take control of their environment. And if the only way they can do that is by getting rises out of people online, they're going to do that because it gets you a more immediate reaction and therefore a more immediate gratification than getting a sincere thank you from somebody when you show empathy. Plus, they don't really have a lot of great examples of empathy, so they're not very well practiced in it.
Very true.
So I think that's one segment. I think another one is, well, basically the same thing, really, but like the adult version, which is maybe somebody who came from that kind of environment, and maybe somebody who didn't come from that environment, who maybe had a very permissive childhood, not a lot of rules or restrictions, not a lot of whatever, but maybe also not a lot of attention, or maybe a ton of attention, then lost it going into adulthood, had to face real life and discover that it was shit. And again, finding empathy nowhere, and therefore finding no real outlet through which to express empathy, even if they had a conscious desire to, not finding the world receptive to that. You'll take whatever you can get, because even a successful troll gets you at something like social connection. Even if it isn't like a cooperative one, even if it isn't like a favorable one, you still connected with another person. They might hate you because of it, but if that's the best you can get, it still gets at wanting to be intertwined with other people, to interact with them somehow. That seems to be our deepest need, like above the pure physical, right? Food and shelter. I mean, those are before we need anything else, we need those. After them, before we need anything else, we need social connection. We need each other desperately. And we'll do whatever we can to get at it. And I think it's really interesting that even though that kind of interaction may be negative, that still suffices. Like, that's still better than nothing at all. I think that says a lot about the way that humans just fucking are. If those same people can be shown, but I've been trying to do this lately, and with some success, that you don't have to settle for just attention. You don't have to provoke people because it's the best way it's the most success you've found yet in getting attention from other people. Like, be intentional, be intentionally kind, go out of your way to give a fuck. Second guess everything you think you want to say, and examine for just a moment before you say it what the response might be, what the effect might be. Just take a quick moment and see if you can come up with something a little better than that. See what the reaction to that is. And it's universally positive. It always works out for the better. You just have to clue people in, because we're not taught empathy. Even among those of us who had the kinds of upbringings where our parents intended to teach us empathy and altruism and every other thing we think of as good, right? Like, you can have all of that growing up. You can have that your whole life. Enter the real world and find out that the world just doesn't behave that way, and it can jade you, make you completely bitter, and it changes your entire disposition. And then it's does that then take a measure of faith on your part? That no, that's not the way people are. That's the way the world makes them be. I think maybe at first it does. If you push back against it even a little bit, you'll find that people respond better to kindness than they do to literally anything else. it becomes really, really difficult not to think then that that's what most people would prefer if only they had the opportunity.
So, and not to cut you off mid-topic, but just
No,
to
please.
throw this in there. So where I still struggle with that, especially now, as a black man, I'm asked constantly to have that faith. You know what I mean? Like to have that, if you peacefully do this, if you kindly do this, if you turn the other cheek almost idea, and inherently believe that. But every time that's been done, or at least tried to have been done, you know what I mean? Like that,
Yes.
that turnaround.
I do know what you mean. I 100% know what you mean. Okay, so the thing with that is, that is not what I'm talking about. Okay. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm advocating for, because what you are being ordered to do, not asked, not even told, ordered to do, you're being told that you must comply with what the will of the people in power is. Now, we're all subjected to that to some degree or another, but all people of color in this country, like specifically black people and anybody who the ignorant would call a Mexican, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, you're being forced into compliance. You're being forced to put on a pretty smiley face for the white people who might be uncomfortable if you did anything else. And that's to keep you subservient. I mean, there's nothing more to it than that. That's not social cohesion. That's keeping you the slave. That's all that is. I got nothing else to say about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an advocation of empathy. That's you stay in your lane, boy.
It's factual.
That's all that is.
Yeah. It's factual. Yeah. So it's just.
So, but I understand too where you're coming from, where like, I mean, I know you can agree 100% because we've already been over it that when I say you can't trust the man in power, you go, no shit. Like, fucking no, not my whole life. That's only ever been the example in front of me. Fucking obviously, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to try a whole lot to get me to that point of view. It's like, yeah, that's about accurate.
But then I say we need to look out for each other, and we need to. I think that maybe the difference between the two is where it seems like maybe what you hear me saying is trust your fellow man, when what I'm saying is we need to work to get to a place where we know we can trust each other. And I'm not saying you inherently can. Again, that's something that's just demonstrably untrue. You can't assume that. You can never assume that. That's the kind of shit that gets you at least taken advantage of, if not fucking killed.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't just go into like every interaction with a stranger completely fucking blindly trusting. Like that's dangerous. Nobody in their right mind would advocate for that. Not now. Not under what we've got right now. That would be at least foolish. But what I'm saying is, well, what I've been saying all along is that like this is not a thing we have now. We're very, very aware that that's not what we have now. What we are doing is advocating the building of the thing we want. We can't base what we want to do on assumptions about the way things are now or about the way people are now. We have to like look at this shit for real, very deeply and very critically, pull it all apart down to its littlest bits and examine those and say, what about this could be better? Pretty fucking easy to identify what's wrong most of the time. It's pretty easy to identify like how those things can be fixed. We just get tangled up in the weeds on the way there so much. Like all these like essentialist arguments about how people really are, and usually use those kinds of assumptions to conclude that they simply can't be trusted and therefore there's no hope for the world. Like we're just absolutely fucked. What are we supposed to do when this is the state of things? It's like
but if you don't
change the state of things.
Well, not only that, but if you don't at least go into the idea that we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, we have to start specifically exactly where we are, because this is what we've got. We can't start from anywhere other than exactly where we are. But like, I have to, for all the terrible interactions that you've had in just your time at where you currently work. And I mean, I know that there's been
a couple.
Not to get fucking into it, but I know, you know, I mean, I've seen that shit enough myself and heard your stories, and I know, you know. But I think that I guarantee you've been more a force for unity and for connection than you'll ever know. Like, I guarantee you've had interactions with people you didn't even know you were making an impression on. Dozens of times, hundreds of times. I mean, I guarantee it. There are people who you helped that had a quick reaction, maybe had some preconceptions, talked to you for a half an hour and kind of walked away slightly changed. And you'll never know. You'll never see those people again. you know? But it's important to understand every new person we meet is a person we change a little bit. Every interaction we have is a tweak we don't know we're making to the world at large. Every time you treat another person with just the basic respect and dignity is something that they're going to carry with them and they're going to spread. They don't even know it. They don't realize they're doing it. You create a sense of cohesion. You give people a feeling of fraternity, I guess. It's not a simple exchange. It's not something they'll give back to you. I mean, they will, but they take that to everyone that they meet for the rest of the day. We tend toward the pro-social more than anything else because we have a need to be included. If other people make us feel that way, we gravitate toward them whether we realize it or not. Most of the time we don't. We just tend to think of it as, that's, solid dude. Totally like that dude. He's a good guy. You have those conscious thoughts. You don't realize the ways in which you try to spend more time with them. You don't realize the ways in which you pick up their mannerisms or their word choices. You start to take on bits and pieces of their sense of humor. You start to emulate their behavior. This is all completely subconscious. You never realize you're doing it. Everyone does. There's nothing more fundamentally human than our sociability. So I don't think that there's any really good reason to assume that anybody is antagonistic by default or antisocial by default. And I think the thing is that even if that's not true, and I'm straight up wrong about that, we still have to assume I'm right.
Yeah.
Because we can't get anywhere if we don't. If we assume anything else is true about humans, our only option is fascism. The only way we can ever hope for order is the most pronounced possible authoritarianism.
I would say if that's not true, then none of this matters. And I might as well go jump off a cliff because
I'll go with you.
Yeah, because
straight up, because what the fuck's the point?
Yeah.
If I am wrong,
what are we doing?
Why bother?
Yeah.
We only have the worst to look forward to if I'm wrong.
Yeah. If I can't, when I go back to work, if I can't look at the person who I'm helping and be like, you know what? I fundamentally believe that you're a good person. Fundamentally, I believe that you are somebody who is a force for good in this world.
Or that you would choose to be if only you had the opportunity to enact it.
Then we might as well end this because my fears are worse. What the world is worse than what my fears are right now, if that's not the case.
Yeah, I agree. This is something I think we've talked about it probably a bit or more than a bit before, and it's certainly something I say online enough. But one thing that I find really, really interesting is this is something when it would come down to conversations of when we try to get right at the fundamental nature, right? And I'm becoming to hate the phrase human nature so fucking much. The more I think about it, the more I just bones start shaking apart. Oh, motherfucker, this is so stupid. It's such a fucking stupid conversation. Because every time somebody brings it up, and I swear to God, every single time somebody brings it up, they make some bullshit assertion without any actual evidence to back it up. Or if they show something to back it up, it's something that can immediately be counteracted. What always happens is somebody would tell a quick anecdote about a thing that people did in a certain situation and say, but that's just human nature, isn't it? And it's always bad. It's never man, this fucking guy, this son of a bitch right here is walking down the street, minding his own fucking business, turns the corner and this building's on fucking fire. Dude sees this goddamn puppy in the window on the second floor, dashes into that shit, saves the puppy and a baby on his way out. Fucking hero. That's just human nature though, isn't it?
Oh, you'll never hear that.
It never fucking happens, but people literally do that shit every single day. So what I think is so interesting, we're so attached to this idea of human nature is bad that you constantly, and you can find it anywhere, hear people telling stories about the worst shit people do and then blaming it on human nature. That's just the way we are. We're nasty and brutish and horrible, and that's just humans for you. Well, sure, it kind of is. That's demonstrably true because you can see examples of it literally every single day. The problem with the assertion that that's what human nature is, not to rehash an episode we already did, but the problem with that is that for every single example that you can come up with for a reason why humans are just bad, I can give you an equal and opposite example of an everyday occurrence of humans being good instead. So you can't say we are just inherently or fundamentally bad or good. That doesn't shake out because we're 50-50 on that shit. You have to ask why. Any kind of fundamentalist or essentialist assertion that can be made based on the apparent evidence, you always have to ask, well, why then? What is it exactly that makes us behave that way? What drives us to do that good or that bad thing? Whatever that thing is, whatever that drive is, that's the thing that is a fundamental component of us. That's something that's part of our nature. Even if those things may at times be contradictory, they at least, unlike just assigning a value of good or bad to an exhibited behavior, you figure out why the behavior is exhibited in the first place. Now you don't just have an arbitrary value assignment. Now you have something with some actual predictive power. If you get at why we do a thing, what motivates us to behave in a particular way, in a particular situation, then you can say, well, if that's true, then I bet if these particular factors are in play, then this will be the course of action taken. Turns out that that's correct.
Yeah.
Now you have something fundamental. Now you understand something that is inherently true about the way humans behave in particular situations, given particular factors. So what causes theft? What causes looting? Right? What causes fucking these things that we maybe think of typically as being antisocial behaviors? But if you just look at the particulars of the situations in which they occur, right? Like looting during a natural disaster, not even like the riots. We'll get around to Minneapolis, I'm sure, but let's say fucking Katrina.
Let's say for like a hurricane. Let's say Katrina.
Well, you got to ask why that happens, right? Why does looting happen? Well, how specifically are we talking about looting, right? Like, are we talking about looting as in just like any example of any person taking a thing that wasn't previously in their possession into their possession? Because if we're talking about how that's portrayed, for instance, in the media, it's weird how often skin color plays a role in whether they're called looters or salvagers. Just saying. In either case.
I love how all the news clips right now about people looting in Minnie are people black, but then you actually look at the individual's pictures. It's not the case. But I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, completely right.
That's just, yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's weird, isn't it? It's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's amazing how that occurs. Yeah. It doesn't push a narrative or anything. That's fine.
Exactly. And they're not showing how those looters are setting up tents to hand out the goods that they took from, like, say, that Target to the community who need them.
And see, you know what? I'm going to skip over fucking everything else I was just about to say because that actually gets at the fucking heart of it. So much of what we see humans being is so fucking shaped by our cultural biases that we already have, and more than anything else, it seems to me, by the way that these things are presented by media. Because you look at a cop fucking murdering a guy for literally nothing. So it was literally nothing.
Yeah, literally.
And before you're even presented with any claims about the proceedings, anything that might claim to be a fact of the sequence of events as they played out, you probably have one of a couple of assumptions. And I bet none of them are anything good about black people. You might still think that what happened was unjust, but you'd still maybe make the assumption that they wouldn't have gone that far if he hadn't done something. Not even if you were the kind of person who would vehemently deny, thinking that whatever it was he did made him deserve it. But at least you might assume he did something to provoke them, even if you assume that what he maybe did was completely unintentional. You might still be assuming just full shittiness on the pig's part, like just nothing but violence and racism. But you would still probably at least assume that was brought on by some action of the murdered man. Clearly somebody coming from that perspective is probably pretty okay. Like, clearly still trapped in the fucking liberal mind prison, but like at least like they're placing the blame in the right place. They're still blaming the shithead who fucking killed a man. Yeah. But there's still like the underlying assumption that at the very least the shithead misinterpreted wildly something that the dude did, never leaving open the possibility that the murdered man did literally nothing wrong.
I have not had a chance to independently confirm this or not, but before we started recording, I saw a doctor on, or at least somebody that claims to be a doctor, but I think they have a verified check mark. So I'm going to at least assume there's some sort of doctor, say that as a doctor, they can verify they can confidently say that the ME's report on the Oh, what's it called? What do they do?
The autopsy?
Yes, the autopsy of Floyd is bullshit. That they read it and it said that he had intoxicants and that he died due to a heart attack and he had heart disease and some other stuff, basically making it seem like it had nothing to do with the fact that a man had his knee and full weight of his body on his neck for 9 minutes.
I mean,
Again, I have not had a chance to independently verify this, but
but that's talking about how bullshit the system is. There it is. Exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't possibly just say that man was a monster. Nah, it had to have been something else that he did too.
it was Eugene Gu,
Yeah.
MD.
Yeah, and
so what I wanted to come around to, I guess.
that was like, yeah, please.
Was
Because I'm losing it.
yeah, I know. I'm about to let's not go to the bad place. Not yet. We're not because there's good here. Like today was kind of a whirlwind as far as all that kind of shit goes. Because it was like, I mean, obviously the last couple of days have been a whirlwind because of all this. But like, just starting from the story of the murder, and like obviously everybody's pissed off about that. And there's like immediate protests, peaceful protests, that for reasons that are glossed over turned violent. Gotta want to address that too for sure.
Yeah,
how
do you have the majority of your crowds be peaceful? You get agitated by the force who you're literally protesting against, and then get mad because the people who were peacefully protesting defend themselves and get angrier.
That's exactly what it was.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah, it does. Makes perfect sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
And then you blame the protesters.
And I mean, there's just been like fucking documentary evidence after documentary evidence. These people somehow haven't learned the fucking lesson that when a phone is being faced at you, like that's not.
When somebody is holding their phone like this,
they're not fucking around on their phone. Like you are currently being recorded, and most likely you're not just being recorded. What you need to understand, you fucking pigs, is you are currently being live streamed to the world, and everyone is going to see everything you fucking do while that thing's pointed at you. You're not in the situation anymore like you were 10 years ago, where you were when you had that pointed at you, when this was in your face, you could grab that phone and destroy it, and then the evidence is gone. That's not the world we live in anymore. Everything you do is broadcast live, which I guess is to say, like it or not, like the revolution 100% will be televised. Like,
yeah.
It's currently happening. So like when people are gathering and chanting, being mildly upset over the member of their community that just fucking died. When you start shooting rubber bullets and throwing tear gas at them, you need to understand why that doesn't fucking work anymore. Yep. Once upon a time it might have. Now we have seen example after example after example of you fuckers, you fucking human fucking refuse, killing people for no fucking reason. The whole world knows now. You're not going to continue to get away with that shit because every latest barely more than a bystander black man that you murder has got another one of your fucking faces marked with a red X. I swear to God, like you've only got it coming. If the littlest bad thing up to the worst possible thing that could happen to you is your fucking fault. You piece of shit. You have it fucking coming.
And the crazy thing is, for the most part, white people just want to be left alone. Like, the base idea is, hey, I'm not asking for anything extra. This is not a reparations conversation. This is not a conversation to try and get some, even though it should be, but it's not. That's not what this conversation is. This conversation is, hey, I kind of like it if you'd stop shooting me. I kind of like it if you stop killing my people. That's all it is.
I kind of like it if you just treated
me like a person, like a human.
Like a human being.
Like I've seen.
Treat me the same way that you treat that white guy over there. That's all I ask.
I've seen you get more upset over somebody doing this to an animal than to me. How am I supposed to? What do you want? No, I know what they want. They want to go back to the good old days.
Yes, they do.
I'm trying not to do this today. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Do.
That's something else from TCAG I wanted to address, but like before we do, I did want to continue on the timeline in Minneapolis, and why I despite what the inciting incident was and why I hate that so fucking much, like everything that's happened so far since then has been amazing. I hate to say that because like just the thing that sparked it is just like is
the worst possible.
But it's like, and I'm trying not to be naive. I'm trying not to think that like, well, this is the start of something real. This is going to ripple out through the whole fucking nation, because they never fucking do, right?
Yeah, and I'm struggling with the same exact thing, and that's what I was telling the man. I was like, this is awesome. It seems like the revolution's starting. It seems like you're finally gonna get some change.
Or just finally somebody making enough of a point that like at least the needs of the people can't be fucking ignored anymore. Like, not the revolution. This isn't that. Nothing's ever going to be that. I mean, that's not this, whatever that is work in progress. It has been for ages, and it will continue to be for ages. I assume most of us with any kind of head on our shoulders assume. But eventually the people had to do something. Eventually the people have got to do something to assert control, to get noticed, to get somebody who matters enough to give a fuck. But like, the most beautiful thing about that, the most beautiful thing I saw today was the proof that we don't fucking need them to. Because first a man is murdered, then a small group of the community gets together to protest conditions under which an innocent man was murdered for literally no fucking reason. And then they get retaliated against violently by the state's fucking lapdog arm of violence. And then instead of dispersing, the people said, how about not fuck this? And they started destroying their shit. And then they ran them out of their own fucking precinct. And then they lit the whole fucking building on fire. And then they looted a giant convenience store, a giant fucking supermarket, took all its shit, and then assembled in an orderly fashion to distribute all that shit to everybody who needed it. Weird how we can just do that. Isn't that weird how we can just fucking do that? We don't need anybody to tell us how to fucking go. We don't need the goddamn man to tell us how the fuck is the right way to distribute our shit. We can do that ourselves for each other, because that's what we're supposed to fucking do. It takes nothing. It takes fucking nothing. We just do this shit. When we're left to our own devices, we fucking take care of each other. And we do it orderly. We do it organized. It's just what we fucking do. So what the fuck do we need them for?
For that thing that I told you about. Minneapolis bus drivers refused to transport protesters to jail. The industrial workers of the world tweeted it. It's a Vice did an article. The unionized bus drivers signed a petition stating that they refuse to transport the protesters to jail and refuse to transport the police to the protest, to the riot.
Are the bus drivers fucking wobblies? I mean, like,
I don't know.
They're organized under the IWW?
I don't know if they are. I just know that it says, in solidarity with protesters, union bus drivers in Minneapolis signed a petition and refused to transport police officers or arrested protesters to jail.
That's fucking awesome.
So I don't know if they are IWW, but they are unionized.
Well, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
No, that's if I wasn't so.
Does this give you no hope at all?
That's what I'm saying.
Good, right?
See, here's the thing: if I wasn't as frustrated as I am, it would. You know what I mean? Like,
it should.
And
it should give you cautious optimism,
because it's one of those things where
no, it should give you absolute optimism. Caution to the goddamn wind, because here's the thing: what you can know is this means that when people have the opportunity to work together towards something better than they've currently got, they just fucking will. And
they just do it.
And you can know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this will be followed up by someone doing something fucking horrible.
Yep.
You can know for sure that that's going to happen. And you can know for sure that that's going to be responded to by people doing better than that fucker did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is the source of hope.
Because isn't it weird too, like how like all of this response, this like crazy fast escalation. Have you heard of a single dead cop yet?
Nope.
A lot of property damage, a lot of expropriation of fucking food by the people.
Well, they're not.
But have you heard of have you heard of a fucking dead cop yet?
Nope.
Did these fucking protests turn murdery? Fucking no, they didn't. That's not what this was about. That's not what it's ever been about. Lynching has never been answered by a fucking counter lynching. That's just not how we do. When you come up against injustice, you don't fucking answer it with injustice. You answer it with
give me justice.
Well, and in the best examples, you take it for yourself, because that's what you have to do. Not you, the person, the community. So when I see this shit, and it's absolutely heartrending because it always starts with tragedy. It's just, it never escalates to further tragedy. It only ever becomes an example of people coming together. It only ever becomes an example of why mutual aid works. And you have like line after line of like arms linked fucking aware enough white people coming together to shield their POC brethren from the police. Like, it's not an image we get very much of. It's not something that, you know, you immediately think of, but the shit does happen. In every one of these instances, there are people that, like, what I saw somebody made a comment about it in some fucking sub earlier today. I saw, it was like, white comrades understand your skin is a shield from the police. Like, stand with your POC comrades. They need you because you stand between them and the cop. Nobody gets touched. What if there was a groundswell?
What do you mean?
I mean, what if this actually started something, right? Like, fuck. I mean, I know it resulted in some amount of demonstration in LA. Nothing compared to Minneapolis, but I mean, this is everywhere now. I mean, the information, it's everywhere. Everyone in the country has seen this. No one's unaware of it. I mean, someday, and I mean, I am hoping, and like I said before, probably naively, but certainly hoping that this is the spark. But if it's not, one day, something will be. I mean, we're so far removed from it, right? Because when's the last time we had a movement like this in the States? It was the 60s.
60s.
Our parents were just getting born. They weren't even there to see it. So, like, we've only known nothing but increasing desperation. We've never actually had a reason to believe that a popular movement was even possible. We've never had a reason to believe we could actually change things. We think we're just supposed to go and vote. Who was it? Emma Goldman, I think. One of my favorite quotes. I should know off the top of my head. Yeah, it was Emma Goldman. If voting actually changed anything, they'd make it illegal.
Yep.
Mind you, she said that like 130 years ago.
Yeah.
This is not new.
Funny. It's funny that you say that because that literally is what, even though it doesn't do any, at least I don't think it does anything.
Doesn't.
That's why I'm so curious. Then why are you trying to stop mail-in balloting as much as he's trying to stop it?
That's just so that he doesn't.
Well, because with enough popular participation, voting could do something. Now, in this case, what we're talking about is changing who's most likely to become the fucking president. And we're not faced with any overwhelmingly good options here this time. Yeah. But realistically, when's the last time we fucking were? Really? We thought we were in 2008. And then the guy that ended up winning turned out not to be the least fucking bit progressive. So the last time we were that successfully fucking lied to? No, but the first time a lot of us fucking realized it for the first time. But this is good. This is how you get disillusioned. It's the first step in change. Enough people have to realize that the fucking thing is broken in the first place to understand that it even needs fixing.
To begin with.
You have to come to understand that everything that you've been told your whole life is how you get things done. You see it tried over and fucking over again, and it never leads to anything. Nothing fundamentally changes. Eventually you have to conclude that either the methods that you've been presented with are in fact not of any substantial potential impact, right? Like that the methods that have been presented to you are just weak at best. Or, well, you conclude that and then realize you have to start thinking of something else, something new, some other way to make things happen, because the stuff you've been told works that you found doesn't work. So you got to do something else. That's conclusion one. Or you conclude that those methods could actually be extremely powerful, and in a just system, maybe they would be, but that what you've got to work with is the way it is, and is pretty fundamentally incapable of changing by design, regardless of what you throw at it. It doesn't really matter which of the two conclusions you come to, because either way, you come to the same final summation, I guess. Because either you think that the methods of addressing the problems need to change, or you conclude that the system itself needs to change. Same practical effect either way. So, like, no matter which side of that coin you fall on, like you basically end up coming at the same solution to the problem, because really they're the same problem.
They look different. Well, not even look different. Yeah, I get. Yeah, I'm trying. I haven't slept right in 2 days.
Well, here's the thing as regards that. You not sleeping in 2 days. Basically, that's what literally true, but it's also kind of like a metaphor for all of your misgivings. Like, but that's something I wanted to bring up too from editing the TCAG episode was like the cognitive dissonance that you deal with constantly of like have, you know, the knowledge that you have like incredibly deep, meaningful connections, interactions with other people constantly, people that you love desperately, and a whole bunch of fucking rando assholes that are just like peak prick for no fucking reason. And like, what's the reconciliation there? Is there even a reconciliation there? Do you just assume that like you've got a 50-50 chance, or maybe in your case more like a 70-30 chance somebody you meet's going to be a prick versus being pretty cool? Like,
basically, it's as sad as that is to say. I also like to believe. Well, I used to like to believe before I started doing this that a lot of that I could dictate, because I was of the firm belief that even if I met somebody who was like that, my personality, who I am, can kind of override that.
yeah.
If maybe they can get a piece of me being who I am in that format, can make them look at, I don't want to say their lives, but make them look at that interaction as different. And in a lot of ways, I've been successful. You know, like I feel like we've been able to do some pretty cool things with that. But just over the last couple of days, and before the last couple of days, even that Tuesday, it's weird. Like it's been a 72-hour run almost at this point. Between, I don't think I told you, Tuesday, my left side.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Tuesday, my left side went numb. There was a guy who shouldn't have even been allowed to come in, who said some pretty rough things, and I hadn't taken my blood pressure medication for the day, so I was done helping him. And he walks out the door, and all of a sudden I get tight right in that space to the point where I have to sit down, and eventually Amanda has to take me home. So that was that day, and then all this stuff happens. So within the span of those couple of days, I've had to have that one-on-one with my mortality in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Both physically and mentally and emotionally, trying to figure out what do I do to try and improve this, not only for myself, but also my family, who I know needs me here. So that's why this has been especially hard.
Because that Tuesday, it was, what do I need to do to improve this so that I can be here for my family medically? And then you hear about Floyd, and then it's
the situation in New York too. It'd be different.
The situation in New York.
Yeah.
There was a woman thrown from her balcony in Canada.
When you hear all that at the same time, and then you're like, well, damn, it's not just, now I gotta start thinking on a bigger scale. Like, how do I not only keep myself safe and my family safe now, but then moving forward, what do I do? And I will give Amanda a lot of credit for this. If we have this platform, I got to start using it.
Yes.
I have no choice. I'm very blessed that I can talk and actually say things that mean something. So if we have this, and this becomes something and is becoming something, then I feel at this point I have an obligation. And selfishly, it's for my family, but also for the world at large.
It's not, there's nothing selfish about that. There's nothing selfish about that, because you need to be looking out for your family. Nobody else is going to fucking do it. But the thing is that you talk about this shit, you spread awareness, you help every single other family that's exactly like yours. And there's so fucking many of them. They're fucking everywhere. You've got brothers and sisters everywhere that you don't even know. You would be so much stronger together.
Like the crazy
thing. But
thing
you're also fucking isolated. You're also fucking completely alone, and you don't have to be. But somebody's got to be the first person to stand up in front of the entire fucking world and say, I fucking got you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let's do this.
Yeah, you're not. And that's why I like at the end of The Kids Are Gone, we said, you're not alone. Because I needed that. I needed to be able to say that out loud, not just for myself, but for anybody else who would hear it.
Yes. Because
you're right. There is a moment of isolation. I've been told my whole life I'm not black enough to do things. This is the moment where I stand up and I shout to the rooftops. I don't care what anybody else has ever said to me. I'm going through this with you. I'm here now. We're going to figure this out together. You're not alone in this anymore. No different than how I ever felt that if anybody's ever told you that you aren't something enough, I got you, because you are enough. We can do this together,
motherfucker.
Yeah. So that's you. That's all you. Like that. I mean, it's not all you, but there's something about having a strong woman or a strong partner to make you realize the better. I know, and even if you're just a sounding board, because I know you'll shake your head and be like, I didn't do anything.
I didn't like. I thought about like, do you want to record? But I didn't say shit because I knew you needed to come to it on your own.
Because there's a time where it's
Raging Fire.
Where?
Lamar.
No, it's not that.
Toward Tillman.
Yeah, it ain't that. That's too far down.
Well,
she's waiting to hear that they set downtown on fire.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just saying there's a Raging Fire. Lamar. Toward Tillman.
Don't deflect. I guarantee you played a bigger role than this. You're never ever going to take credit for it, but just in watching as much of the last TCAG as I've seen so far, like, I know that's probably among the milder of the conversations you guys have had about shit in general.
Oh, yeah.
If you think that you didn't play any role at all in changing any minds, you're at least wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly even full of shit.
Yeah.
Probably just wrong, though.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Oh, I meant Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm not full of shit.
Yeah.
And then
You're 100%.
Well, then you're just wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although, RJ, to address the follow-up to you, you're fucking completely right. I mean, I think this is, if I had a goal in mind for, like, where I would have liked to see you get to, it was never to, like, adopt a particular political ideology. And more I'm coming to despise the idea of that in general. I mean, I don't know, probably never stop calling myself an anarchist, just because, like, those are ideals that I find effective. Like, they're good things to aspire to. It's more than anything, they mean to help people have a better life than they currently have, and to do that together as much as possible. And I don't know why. What more could you aspire to? What could be better than that? But all that shit aside, to understand that, like, the very best thing you can be is a uniter. The very best thing you can be as a human is someone who brings people together, who makes people understand that they have support where they need it, and that they can be support where they're able. I don't know what else there is. I don't know what else you could want. I don't know what's better to aspire to than that. I'm beside myself. And I already knew that's you. That's you through and fucking through. For as long as I've known you, that's so who you fucking are. But to hear you know it so confidently.
I'm about as fired up as it gets. Because too long I've allowed things that shouldn't have done it to affect what I want to do and who I want to be. And I've always been able to just kind of hide it because I can do it in other avenues. So I wasn't able to do it on a political scale, but maybe if I can do it in a smaller community, like in work or something, bring people together, then that make me feel good. But now I'm starting to see that that's not enough. And what really opened my eyes is when I was looking at a little bit at our YouTube analytics and how many people actually saw this, or how many potentially people it could reach. I have an obligation to be that. And it's an obligation that I want. It's not an obligation that I'm going to run from. It's an obligation I'm excited about, because there's so much out there telling you that you can't be together and that this won't work. Let me be somebody who says it can.
We need as many positive voices as we can get.
Yeah.
We need a new movement, one that's not defined by fucking 200-year-old political signifiers. We need something that's humanity forward. We need
humanity first. Like, the America first bullshit is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It
fucking
needs to
play it out too. Like,
it needs to be humanity first.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, you're a human. No matter where you're born, no matter what you look like, you are a human first.
Mm-hmm.
And the second you can put that in your mind and avoid everything else will start to fall into place. Everything else will start to fall into place.
I agree.
I'm getting all...
I've become increasingly convinced that
Good.
it's extremely good. It's exactly, we need the fucking energy, dude. We need the fucking fire starters. We need the people who get the rest of the people on fucking board, on fire. We need something desperately. Flame will rise. Like, it has no choice but to. No, we have to be the kindling. Like, we absolutely have to be.
Yeah.
We need these voices. We need these experiences. We need this extreme diversity, because it's only by exposure to diversity that we all understand that there is literally no such thing as diversity. We are all exactly the same, even though the particulars of our experiences differ because of the particulars of our demographic. Fucking what should in a perfect world be meaningless data points we take as being essential differences between us, and they're just fucking not. They're just fucking not, but do affect the experiences we have. Because they affect the experiences we have, they affect the way that we in turn perceive the world. We have got to get people on board with the idea that those are incidental.
Yeah.
Very real in the way that they've had an experience on, had an effect on your experience of the world and your perception of it. You don't have to take anything essential away from the world. Understand that those experiences, even though they have been awful at times, unite you with literally everyone else. Everyone has had something like that experience.
It doesn't need to be a negative. Like, my differences from yours and from hers, and though, like you said, they're there, it doesn't make it a bad thing. Like, if anything, I learned from you.
Yes.
I learned from her.
Exactly.
Yes.
My
helps
experience being different from yours is not something that makes us different and therefore opposed.
Yeah.
We've had different experiences, and the more we expose each other to them, the more we learn, the better we can be.
Absolutely. Because then it makes you more... I love the fact that you guys are different than me. I love it, because then we can have this conversation.
Yes.
If we all grew up in the same place and all we knew was just each other, then...
It's the same reason that companies have somebody random go into one of their like think tanks or whatever after a while. Because eventually, if you're only around people that know the same shit as you, you're going to start to groupthink. They need to throw somebody in there to kind of mix it up, give you somebody with a different experience and therefore a different point of view. If you don't get a different point of view, you're never going to learn anything new. You're never going to start to think about things in a new way. And you need to do that in order to grow. What?
Nothing. That was just...
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, get riled up, baby. Sexy.
Over the next couple weeks, because there's going to be a lot of different things that are going to start going on, I want to start having a plan. A lot more content coming. I want to start doing a short form. I want to do my own. I want to do this with you guys. I want to do The Kids Are Gone. Making this world the best place we can leave it. That's the only thing that matters anymore. Mm-hmm. And if my part in this is to use what we have to spread that message, then I'm going to do everything possible to make sure that that's the case.
Okay, hey, people, I'm just going to fucking pick it up right here. As of right now, none of the three of us knows the last thing we said that was going to be part of the episode.
Yeah.
We sidetracked because
it's what we do.
We're us.
Yeah, it's what we do.
It's our entire thing.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the episode, such as it was. It certainly was an us episode, I bet. Holy shit. Merch! We're here. Disty Unenrailed. We got some confused symbolism on RJ and our channel number.
But I love our logo. I'm not going to change our logo for anything. Our logo's dope. Like, even if it's confusing, it's one of the coolest logos I've ever seen, so we're just going to rock it. I'm in for it. It's fantastic. It's a bumper sticker now, amazing. Too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing.
Send me that. I'll throw that all up on my bumper. Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Yep, that's on the back of the Fiat now.
I love that.
It went to Kroger today for its first trial run. I know. It's so awesome. I'm so happy.
Sorry, guys, you're actually seeing like my second ever reaction to this. I didn't know that we had a bumper sticker. I just found out we had shirts like 2 hours ago. They didn't tell me they were doing this, so I'm like,
nope, total surprise.
It's like an early birthday present for me.
I almost texted you about it like 5 different times, and then I'm like, no, it's a surprise.
Yeah, very much love it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe. The Patreon is where it is. You know where to find us. We love you very much, as always.
As always.
As always.
Have an amazing night.
Night, guys.
Bye.